Welcome on back to Same But Different Spooky October Edition. This week, we got to watch The Boogeyman, which is adapted from a Stephen King short story from like the 70s. We were pretty excited about it. We're both pretty big Stephen King fans over here. Derek more so than me, but I like Stephen King.
All of the books on my bookshelf. Can't really see them, but yeah. That's all Stephen King down there.
We don't believe you.
I'm showing.
Nope, I don't see it, so I don't believe you.
You have to. You know me.
Why don't we all turn on our night lights, close our closet doors, and talk about The Boogeyman?
Ooh, boy, I can't wait. I love talking movies.
Imagine you didn't.
Imagine this was my worst part of my day.
I think you should kick us off and you should tell us what you thought about this movie, Derek.
The Boogeyman. 2023's The Boogeyman. Because there was a Boogeyman movie that came out in 2004, 5. It was fine for when we were that age, but I don't know if it has any rewatch value now. Overall, had a pretty good time with this movie. I mean, enough of a good time to watch it twice. Let's start off with the things that I liked about the movie. What I thought was effective about the movie. It played really well with lights and shadows and camera techniques, out of focus, stuff like that, to really enhance the horror experience. I think in a movie like this that didn't really need to go as hard as it did with the horror, it did. And it did effectively because it had to make up for not being gory or extremely disturbing or something like that. It's a very PG horror movie. The creep factor and the what lurks in the shadows, very much, apt for The Boogeyman. I think they did it very well. Didn't rely on jump scares solely. There were a couple in there, but it didn't rely on them. There were a lot of scary moments where, you just saw a face hovering in the darkness, out of focus, or a light would flash and you see an image out in a corner somewhere. The jump scares were few and far between, and when they happened, they were effective, and when they weren't happening, I was glad they weren't happening. The horror worked best when you couldn't see the boogeyman or when you could hardly see the monster that was the boogeyman. Where it started to kind of teeter off the effectiveness was when you actually got to see the boogeyman, in my opinion. And that's always the case with especially PG horror movies. Less is more, and what you don't see is scarier than when you do see it.
Yeah, and it almost always becomes an action film in the climax, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's entertaining. It's just the horror is gone. Like, I'm not scared anymore, which is a weird feeling to have when you're watching the characters on screen who are terrified for their lives. But I'm just like, this isn't scary because I know I can see it. That being said, during the action scene, there were a couple moments where you're like, ooh, what's going to happen? But then you immediately see the creature monster's face again, and you're like, nah. And that segues into stuff that I didn't like about the movie. Not necessarily that I didn't like about it, but just made it not that fantastic of a movie. It was a cliche story. It was a story that you've seen a million, billion, quadrillion times before in horror movies. Family lost a parent, trauma manifested itself into a monster, and they're being terrorized by it. Like, even the absent dad was just like, it's just been done.
I will say, though, just to counter that point, is that this came out in like 1973 initially, and it's not like they could change the source material so much that it wasn't a Stephen King adaptation. So if you look at this as being 50 years old, I'd argue it's not really cliche.
Okay, I mean, they could have taken some liberties put against everything that's come before it. You've seen it a million times already. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The kids in this movie were either extremely brave or extremely stupid. And I don't know where I land on that subject yet, because they were doing what stupid people do in horror movies all the time. They were going where the noises were. They were opening doors. They were not turning on lights. You mentioned at one point where she grabs a hockey stick when this thing had just been attacked by a 12 gauge shotgun 17 times. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So there were a lot of dumb horror decisions by the characters to propel the story forward, but they were just dumb at the end of the day. Especially the little girl, for some reason, never screamed or called out for her dad. She was just like oddly very brave for a very little tiny aged person.
Tiny aged person, yes.
That makes sense, right?
Sure.
One thing that I really didn't like about the movie, and again, I haven't read the short story. I have the book where the short story is located. I haven't gotten to that short story yet, unfortunately. So maybe the source material lacks this as well. But there is no twist. There is no reveal. There is no deeper subtext layer at all. It is a very like A plus B equals C type of movie. And I think this movie could have benefited from some sort of extra twist reveal something. Because the whole movie, you're looking forward to that. You're theorizing things. You're getting to the end and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then nothing happens. And then finally, the boogeyman, the creature itself, I really, really, really wanted it to be some sort of humanoid monster rather than some spider-looking arachnid, long-armed monster. This goes hand in hand with the reveal of it, and once you start to see it, you don't suspend your disbelief anymore. You're just like, that is a monster. And now that it's out of the shadows, I'm not scared of it anymore. But if it was more humanoid, if it was more of a boogeyman or a boogie person, that would have played better for me. The fact that it was just like a creature feature at the end of the day was like, meh. And I didn't quite understand what it was doing to the main character at the end, like sucking out her energy through her eyes and mouth, and that had never been touched on prior in the movie.
Yeah, gotta read the book. Words,
yeah.
Not book, words.
I gotta read the words. As of right now, though, all I have is the movie. Watched it twice, and the second viewing didn't necessarily make it better, didn't necessarily make it worse either. It's a very, like, middle of the road for me, but first half of the movie with the horror creep factor, stuff like that, it was fine. I enjoyed it. 5.5 nightlights out of 10.
Wow, so you just enjoyed this over it being bad.
Yes.
I have a lot of the same stuff, just kind of said differently. There are some things I disagree with, but we'll see.
Same but different.
Say that, but it was cool. This was like, it was a cool movie. By no means is this a great horror movie. I would not say run out to see this. It is fun, and it is reminiscent of early 2000s movies like The Grudge or like The Ring. Like, it felt very, well, A plus B equals C, really, I guess, like you said.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily think of that as a bad thing, because that's just what this movie was, and that's okay. I also didn't mind the fact that I've seen the story before. I mean, a lot of movies are movies we've seen before. This one, it just matters if the movie does it well or not, and I think this one did. It's always an interesting story, no matter how many times I've seen it, and the metaphors that get personified, I guess, with grief and trauma and things like that. I don't think I use the right words, but we're gonna move right past it. It's just cool. It's just interesting to me to see that sort of stuff, no matter how many times I see it. I don't know why. It was pretty spooky. I don't know. It didn't reach scary too often. There were a couple times, but it was as spooky and as violent as like a PG horror movie could get, I think.
Can we just discuss what our favorite scary moment was?
I think we'll probably agree.
Okay.
I think the best scare in the whole movie was when Sawyer was chasing Sadie up the stairs, and Sadie closed the door on her, and then she turned around, and we're all ready for her to open that door and for it to be the boogeyman, but before she can open the door, the boogeyman knocks the door down and stuffs its fist in her mouth. You know, we watch enough horror movies to know when the jump scares are coming, and that one got you as you were preparing for it. Mm-hmm. It didn't let you. It was cool. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, that was a jump scare that was executed very well. My favorite jump scare in the movie for sure. However, not my scariest part in the movie. The scariest part in the movie for me that made me go, ooh, what the fuck, was when Sawyer was laying in bed and she looked over in the corner and the door of her closet opened up and the thing kind of crawled out of her closet right under her bed. That was creepy.
There were some good creep factors.
Yeah.
There really were.
Yeah.
And the sound design and the lighting all really, really helped with that as well. The cinematography was a lot of fun. Like the red light in the therapy office, flickering, getting faster and faster and faster. And that was, well, the darkness. Anyway, the camera work anytime the girl had her little ball nightlight and like looking under the bed and the camera like flipped around with her. Granted, we've seen that in something like The Conjuring. It's still cool. Gets you right involved. You're like, whoa, cool. I think the acting was all very well done. I think Sadie was great. I've never seen her before. And Sawyer was great mostly. Like, she was very, very good at being scared and being what she needed to be. But there were aspects of like the fun sisterly stuff that I just don't think she did very well. Like when she was bitching like, why would you do that, Sadie? And was like kicking her. I didn't buy that for a second. It just sounded like she was reading a script.
Okay.
I only have two like real major gripes because it's hard to pick apart a movie that just was never supposed to be anything incredible in the first place, you know? I hated that Chris Messina was an absent father the whole movie and then he got some big, cool, awesome hero moment at the end. I just don't like that. I think that's unfair to the two girls we were rooting for the whole time to have their absent father step in and save them.
I'm wondering, though, how would you have done it to complete his character arc?
It could have happened I think he should have died. Like, if he stepped in and did something cool and heroic, but also died for them, I think I could have forgiven the shittiness of the other 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But just showing up as the hero and then everyone survives and everyone's happy felt cheap.
Wow. All right. Brody wants some death. Brody wants these girls to be orphans.
Yeah. This is my biggest gripe, is that the characters brushed off these horrifying things way too easily. Anytime something super scary and traumatic happened to them, they were pretty much absolutely fine, not even in the next scene, just after it stopped. It just felt weird. There were also a few times that Sadie pretty well saw proof of the boogeyman's existence, but like didn't do anything with it. It felt like every time the monster attacked, the inertia had been reset instead of the movie constantly building.
Oh, that's a great observation. I agree with you.
Not that this movie was ever going to get a very good rating from me, but that's what stopped it from getting anything like good.
Okay. I totally see that. That's an amazing observation.
Thanks, man. Overall, I think the movie was a pretty good ride. It's a solid horror movie in an era where these kinds of horror movies usually fall flat. I'd argue that this one thrived in its own way. However, I don't think it warrants anything better than 6 nightlights out of 10.
Oh, so not much more than what I thought about it. Okay.
No, I'd argue it was a little bit better than just good, but not much better than just good.
Everybody take a minute to figure that out.
That has been our review of 2023's The Boogeyman. Please let us know what you thought if you've seen it. If you haven't, let us know why you haven't. I don't know. As per usual, we've come to the point in the show where we must draw our next movie from the heart of destiny. I do want to let everybody know, we're going to take a quick tangent before we pick a movie here, that we will not be releasing a video next week. We are going to be taking the week off. Derek and I are both involved in a short film that is going to be really, really, really exciting. It's also like perfect for spooky season, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. I'm sure we'll give you updates on this channel. But the movie we picked from this hat today will come out on the 23rd, not on the 16th. If you rely on our videos to get you through your Mondays, sorry, let's pick a movie. Our next spooky movie is The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Lovely.
Dimitri.
Demi Moore.
The Last Voyage of Demi Moore. A crew sailing from Varna by the Black Sea to England find that they are carrying very dangerous cargo. I believe that cargo might be Dracula. All right, so you now have 2 weeks to watch that one. It is new. I don't know where it is streaming or anything, but figure it out, okay? As always, if you liked what you watched, if you like seeing our stupid, dumb, idiot faces, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, share with your grandmothers. We're going to be around, and we're going to be doing spooky movies. I want to say for the rest of October, but really we're just going to be doing 2 more weeks of this because we're taking a week off for our own spooky movie.
Spooky movies will always make their way into our show one way or another, whether it's October or not.
That's true. We like the scary stuff. Super duper scary October.
I can't wait to put you in a short film and direct you with scares.
And I'm going to be either a human or a ghost or a monster or a bird.
Stay tuned and find out.
Bye!
Happy Halloween! Same but different.